Welcome to the Sacred Emergence Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Wong, and I'm so thrilled that you're here. This is a place where you'll be guided to living your most aligned life so that your truest, most radiant self can emerge. We'll be jamming on topics ranging from spirituality, entrepreneurship, to wellness and lifestyle design, and everything in between that can support you to grow, evolve, and shine, all the while not taking ourselves too seriously. So if you're ready to step into your leadership, break through limiting beliefs, own all of who you are, and expand in abundance, grab yourself your faith cup of tea and let's dive in. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Sacred Emergence. I'm so happy to be here. It's Michelle Wong, and today I have a wonderful guest, Emma Clayton, who's joining us from the UK. Well, welcome to the show, Emma. I'm so happy to have you here.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so you and I were just chatting before we hit the record, and you and I know each other from our mastermind with Jonna Kingsford, our mentor and coach through Figure Six. And I love your vibe, and I love, like, we actually have very similar journeys. And you and I are both manifestors, so I'm like, oh, another manifestor in our group. So I can still relate. And even for those who are listening who aren't manifestors in human design, I'm pretty sure Emma's story can really relate to your story if you're someone who is currently in corporate world and wanting to do something different. And so, Emma, I'm so excited for you to share your journey and where you are now.
Yeah, so shall I just sort of take us back to where
Yeah.
it all began?
Well, why don't we share, like, what is your work now really quickly, and then kind of like how you got here.
Okay, so now I work predominantly with women, but also with men, to help them on their journey of basically becoming all of who they came here to be. So that's a journey of healing, of digging deeper and looking at beliefs and changing that, deconditioning, unlearning, reprogramming themselves for kind of paving the way forward, really. So I work mainly with people that have struggled perhaps with anxiety and feelings of imposter syndrome, especially in the workplace, especially in corporate, and have perhaps had body image issues, body confidence problems, because that's really my journey, my story. And to, I guess, go back there, I guess my journey really started when I was probably turned 30 and realised I've been in a bit of self-destruct through my teens and my 20s, like a lot of people, I think. And I was like, I am pretty sure there's a better way to think and feel about myself than I do right now, having kind of looked in the mirror and just felt so unhappy with what I saw staring back at me. So I kind of made a promise with myself there and then that I would do something about it, and I had no idea what that was. And it took me a few more years into my 30s, kind of trying, to work with personal trainers and to start new diets and things like that, before I realized I probably needed to go a little bit further below the surface than I had done. So I walked into my first therapist session. Never thought I would see a psychotherapist in my life. And there I was Googling, actually, how do I lose weight and keep it off? Because I had this awful relationship with food where I would lose weight and then I would just go off the other end of the scale and like binge eat until I'd put all the weight on and some. So that was kind of still my problem at that stage, that I wanted to be, fixed, if you like. And I found a therapist, and in our first conversation, she said she didn't need to help me with my relationship with food, but she needed to help me with my anxiety, of which I was performing at a very high level with this generalized anxiety disorder, lack of trust and low self-esteem. So that was kind of like the first shocker for me to go, oh, okay, so it's not just that I need to lose weight and then I'll feel better. I have some kind of deeper stuff going on. And that was at a time that I was just going through my leadership development program at work. So this was the kind of next level of leader was being selected and going through this 2-year long program. And that was also revealing some gremlins, because you kind of put on the spot, going through a lot of role play scenarios, that kind of thing, and lots of fishbowl type feedback situations, and a lot of anxiety was coming up for me. And you kind of really it's really in the spotlight. And one of the facilitators actually suggested I get a book that was called Taming Your Gremlin, which was the first book I got off the self-help shelf. So yeah, that's kind of where it all started.
Just with what you've shared so far, like you're like seeing a therapist. Like I've seen therapists before, and it's actually really nice. It was just a talk and like blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, totally.
It's so like yeah, because our mental well-being is so important. And so I'm glad that your therapist was able to kind of go deeper and like pinpoint like anxiety, and you were feeling it at work, which is so interesting, because how we spend our time can be so, like if we give ourselves permission to like play with something different, it could be so much better. So I love that one of the people in your training was like taming the gremlin or the inner gremlin.
Yep.
I love it. So yeah, so you read the book, I'm assuming?
I got a few pages in and I got the gist. And it really it had a lot of pictures in. So you had to imagine this kind of voice in your mind, what it looked like. And mine was this big kind of ugly green witch. We had a program in the UK when I was growing up called I can't remember what the program was, but there was a witch in it called Grot Bags.
Grot
So
bags?
Grot Bags. So my gremlin that I picture was Grot Bags, and it just allowed me, I guess, to separate myself from this voice that always overtook and always shut me down. And it was literally like, I can remember being in these meetings, and in particular in this leadership development program, because you're in this such a concentrated environment. And I can remember thinking, like, kind of intuitively really reading the room, knowing what was going down, wanting to say, okay, come on guys, this is what I see, this is what I feel, this is what I'm picking up on, and just being like this other voice going, don't be so stupid, you're going to look absolutely ridiculous if you say that, and talking myself out of it. And I was very fortunate that the facilitator in the room actually picked up on that and saw what was going on in my mind, even though I was very obviously silent in doing so. So yeah, I was fortunate from that perspective. But unfortunately, even with the awareness, I kind of didn't overcome it, overnight. It was something I realized that I'd probably kind of lived with for most of my life, since early teens, where I was in fact, even younger, I was a very kind of introspective, reflective young girl. So I spent a lot of time in my bedroom, reading, thinking about things, reflecting on things. I kind of prided myself on being a reflective person, but actually what I realize now is that I was just very stuck in my head with a lot of negative self-talk going on, and didn't know how to express that and how to get out of my head. And I just got to thinking that was normal.
Okay, so then from that point, how did you how did that, it sounded like with the leadership training that you attended, like it really was able to give you some awareness. And then from there, how did that shift for you?
Yeah, I guess I worked with my therapist for a while, and the focus was very much on my work environment and the kind of things that that would come up for me then, that would trigger this kind of anxiety in me. And it was very much about learning to respect those symptoms and see them for what they were, because I think my initial reaction was like, no, I'm not anxious, I'm just like nervous. I really played it down, just did
Mm.
not think I was the sort of person that would be labeled as anxious. So I had a lot of resistance to even hearing that. But I think it set me on a path of really just fascination about how my mind works, and how you can change that. Like, because like if I go back to when I was 30, I knew something inside of me was saying there is another way to think and feel about yourself. So I kind of always knew, but I just didn't know how. So it's just, that was about 7 or 8 years ago, and it just set this obsession alight inside of me. So I got into podcasts and reading self-help books. I've never looked back. um, I started working with my first health coach around 5 years ago, and I still was imagining it in it like finding a lifestyle, like a way to eat and move, that was kind of going to be for life. But she gave me so much more in terms of, she was a mindset coach, and I really had that taster of kind of going deeper, and started journaling. And although I resisted it massively and I struggled with it, I started journaling and thinking about gratitude, and meditating, and doing slower things like yoga, and just like really finding ways to become more aware of what was going on inside my head, but also to manage it and find ways to change that narrative and that dialogue in my mind. So it started there. And then I would say at the point that I got to the end of my career, which was it came to an end because I was faced with redundancy. So I actually
Mm.
took a severance package in October 2017. And it was only when I realised that my 20-year career was potentially coming to an end, that I thought, what else would I do if I wasn't doing this that I'd done since I was 18? And I'd always wanted to be my own boss. And it was at the point that I was like, I'd come so far in my growth, personal development journey, if you like, that I just felt like I had stuff to give back, that I could help others. I knew I wasn't the only person that was kind of struggling up in my head like this. So I took the leap, and I've probably really thrown myself into the work, the real work, the deeper work since then, over the last 3 years. And I will never look back, and I will continue to deepen that, and learn and grow and evolve. And I think that's another thing you and I have in common. It's that,
Mhm.
like, that constant focus on growing, but also from that place of knowing, like, and this is the difference from where I was 5 years ago, knowing that I'm enough now, I'm whole.
Mhm.
And yeah, there's just more to learn and discover.
It's so interesting because I have a very similar timeline, because like at the end of 2017 was like my last stint in corporate. Like by 2018 I was like, all right, this is my path, right? And
Wow.
so you
Yeah.
were so similar, and I feel like, I don't know if it's the same thing for you, but it's taken me like until this year, until 2020, to fully have way more clarity,
Oh
because I was
God.
trying all types of different things. And I know that you have different trainings, like you do theta healing, you also have beliefetics training, and you're certified
Hmm.
now. And so it's like you're so similar, like and we're both
It's
manifestors, like
crazy. Yeah, I
yeah.
know.
So like for you, where would you say, because this is interesting, and I feel like a lot of times when people take the leap, it's not always like, we might have gotten some type of clarity, oh, this is the direction I want to go, but it's not until you're in it that you start to like re-navigate, like, oh, maybe not this, but try this and
Hmm.
try this. It's not always like that linear road, like I left corporate and then this was my business. So what
Oh
was,
gosh, yeah.
yeah, so what was that path for you after you left corporate?
Yeah, so I'd say there's a couple of things going on. So in terms of like clarity around where my business was going to go, I think that just evolves and changes every day, it feels like
Mhm.
sometimes. But certainly in the early days, I was quite clear. When I look back, I was quite clear. It was like anxiety and my relationship with food and my body. That was kind of my bag. That was my journey up until then. So that's kind of how I came out the gates. And I had, some might call it beginner's luck. Like I had my first 4 clients signed up within 3 months of me starting, one-to-one clients. And I was like, oh my goodness, like I'm obviously like onto something here.
Mm.
Um, and then unfortunately, what I did was I took my foot off the pedal, if you like, in terms of on the front lines. I wasn't showing up so much. I was serving these 4 clients on the back ends, and of course, they all finished within 6 months, and I had to start again, putting myself out there. And I'd kind of got this imposter syndrome coming up again by then. So the other thread that was going on was my whole identity crisis,
Mm.
having been a corporate career woman for 20 years, getting a salary, earning a decent salary, um, having no money issues, having like traveling the world and having great opportunities, to actually being at home all day, every day, which was my choice. Like I wanted to be at home more, I wanted to travel less, but on my terms. But having to make like more conscious decisions around where I spend and invest my money. But also having this identity crisis, like who am I now? Like that I don't have, I'm no longer like going into work and being needed, like having an inbox full of emails that people want something from me, and being reactive and constantly, having to be reactive. Here I am, like on day one, sat with a brand new laptop and no emails, and like sitting there hitting the refresh button expecting some emails to fall into my inbox, and it doesn't happen. So there was this a massive identity crisis, I think, went on, which I think, there was a, in hindsight, very much a, almost like a grieving, but also a healing process that needed to happen from the kind of I guess the deconditioning that needed to happen after leaving the corporate world. Because as you know, it's a very different, I don't want to say beast, but you know what I mean. It's a very different thing we find ourselves having to handle, being our own boss and having to create our own urgency and our own opportunities. And yeah, it's
Mhm.
like, it's so different. And I was so conditioned to be in my masculine, be reactive, be doing, do. And when you hit the brakes on that, and you swing the other way like a pendulum, it's like really hard to stop. And then you're actually facing yourself on a whole nother level, because you don't have the busyness of the job keeping you distracted.
I love that you said that, like you face yourself at a whole different level, because it's true. Now it's like the busyness is gone and now it's like it's you and you.
Yeah.
And yeah. And like this is why I know a lot of people who leave corporate. It's like the lack of structure, because we've been
Hmm.
so like it's like there the structure, the hierarchy, it's all been created for us. There's like a pecking order. And now when you're out on your own, there's like it's a different mindset. Like if you've ever read Robert Kiyosaki, The Rich Dad Poor
No, I
Dad, the cash
haven't.
flow, oh my goodness,
Oh no, I haven't. No.
oh my God, it's so good. He talks about the different quadrants and going from the employee quadrant to the entrepreneur quadrant, or the business owner quadrant. Even it's a totally different mindset shift. Um, and and so what I love with your story is that you're still in the game. You're still in the game, and I feel
Hmm.
like you're not going to go back into corporate. Like you've already been out for more than for 3 years,
Hmm.
and you're still in it, which requires a lot of gumption and tenacity,
Hmm.
persistency, all the qualities. I was going to say I'm a manifester, but it's like, it's not unique to a manifester. But I can also, like, as you were sharing your story, I was like, oh, like you and me, very similar. Like we were both conditioned to be generators, right? To always be plugging in. And there's nothing like generators are amazing, but we're not generators. So our output of energy is very different. And so I could totally see why, like, okay, I don't have that. What's that? Like that email ping, the endorphins not like the hit, it's not coming in. Well, what do I do now? Because you're saying like I was always reacting, versus initiating, which is what we're really designed to do.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yeah. So how did you find like, so then you started, I love that you had clients right off the get-go. And then you're like, oh crap, well, I need to put myself out there a little bit more. And so how did you started navigating that?
Yeah, so I mean, I came out of corporate and I'd signed up to this nutrition and lifestyle coaching diploma. So I was studying, it's like a first year of a nutritional therapy degree. So it was like hardcore. And I got 2 months in, I was like, what the hell am I doing? This is way too much in-depth sciencey for me. I'm needs to know basis. So I realized I was probably on the wrong path with that, but I kind of got through it and I like got that tick in the box. And then I was like, right, okay, I want to go and do my NLP practitioner course. And I went and did that right off the back of that. And then I was like, okay, now with my business, what I did on that NLP course was I woke up at 4:30 a.m. with this inspiration for my next course that I wanted to, or my first group program that I wanted to do. And I called it the Food Freedom Academy. I plotted out this 6-week program before I started the last day of my course that weekend. And I came back and I did a masterclass and then I sold 5 spots. And I was like, oh my goodness. Like that was my first sort of real inspired as a manifester. Inspiration came through me and I acted on it and it paid off. And I was like, this is awesome. And then I took the ladies through that and there was amazing results. And I was like, okay, I loved having a group. So I thought I would definitely do that again, but it needs to be longer to get them the kind of lasting results. So I relaunched it in the new year, which was like 2 months later, and no one bought it. So I started to doubt myself and I started to doubt, oh, is it really the food thing? And I was getting sick of talking about binge eating all the time. So I started to doubt my niche, if you like. So I started to come out of my niche that was very much around relationship with food and come up a little bit and talked a little bit more broadly about body confidence, because that was a huge thing. And then I got really bored talking about the body confidence as well. And as I was going through, I started this eating psychology diploma. It was all mind, body, nutrition. It was working with the Institute for the Psychology of Eating, Mark David.
I
Have you
did
done
that
it
too.
too?
Oh
Oh my God. Isn't it amazing? I did it. So it's fascinating because everything I do for me first, because I want to learn all I can, and then start to embody it before I feel fit to like pass that on. And I think that was the thing with my food freedom piece was I was still in it, right? I was still struggling very much with my eating habits. I still binge eat today, if I'm completely honest. Every now and again it still happens. Like I'll put my hands up. I'm all about keeping it real. So I'm not kind of over it, and I don't know if I ever will be, because it's been in my life for 30 years. However, I just felt again that imposter syndrome came up because I was like, who am I to help other people with their relationship with food when I haven't really mastered mine? So I had all these things going on where I was not yet mastering the thing for myself and feeling like I wasn't entirely qualified to be helping others. And every time I did that, I'd switch course a little bit. So then we went on to the body confidence stuff. And I felt like I was, very comfortable now in my own skin as a woman in a bigger body. I'm a UK size 18, which I don't know what that's the US.
I have no idea.
14, I think.
Maybe 14.
I think it's like a 14 in the US. So I'm a bigger girl, so I relate to a lot of people that want to feel comfortable in their own skin, but aren't necessarily like look in the mirror and realize they still need to lose some weight, maybe. But again, I started to get I started to look at the body positivity movement out there and just think, wow, I'm not that confident, and started again to get that imposter syndrome. And then I was like, okay, I still have some work to do on this
Mhm.
imposter side of things. And that's when you kind of, um, that's when I went inside. I think last year was a year long of me really um, experiencing what it feels like to be deep in the fear of not being good enough,
Mm.
only under a different guise this time, and actually probably more severe because I'm not backed up by a team of people that can, do the things that I can't do. I've got to do everything or ask for help or pay for help. And I spent, yeah, probably the majority of last year really feeling like I didn't have clarity about what direction I needed to go in or wanted to go in anymore. I really lost sight of that. I just knew I wanted to help people overcome some of this stuff and just grow and know that there was this better way to think and feel about themselves. So I kind of stuck to that throughout, and did a lot of work. Probably had my dark night of the soul last year, and this year just something shifted, and I think I just realized it's like it's not an option for me to go back to the corporate world.
Mhm.
So I kind of have to I have to make this work, and it's important to me that I need to put myself out there. I need to be brave. I need to be courageous. I need to be like putting myself out there in the field and breaking out of some of these boxes that I'd found myself in. So this year has all been about kind of just like tapping into the rebel in me, really, and actually rebelling against some of the things that I'd been sort of taught to believe was necessary in business, like having a niche, like having an ideal client avatar, and just throwing it out the window because it didn't feel good. And
Mhm.
just, showing up on the internet and talking about these things, talking about how I'm not having a great day, and talking about how I'm not really clear on what it is I'm doing anymore. But this is me keeping it real. And then obviously I found Jana this year, our coach, and she has just been amazing at helping me break free of some of the more recent conditioning I've had since leaving the corporate world. So
Mhm.
it's been quite a ride, and I'm glad that I found in you someone that gets it as well, right?
Yeah, well, I love what you're saying about like keeping it real because as you were sharing your story about like feeling like we have to be 100% qualified, it's almost like we have to be that perfect
Mm,
ideal that no one ever like. I even like I love to learn, and sometimes it's like, oh, I don't know this, I want to learn this, but like I just have to. I love that you were saying you just accepted, right? Because for me, it's like like sometimes I would feel bad for taking on more trainings. And really it's like, well, that's just who I am. I just love to learn. And sometimes it's like, it could be for the benefit of other people, but really it's for me. And I shouldn't feel bad about like, not being there yet, which is what when we're dead.
yeah, absolutely.
Where's the there, right? And so I just
Hmm.
love that for you. You're like, well, I'm just gonna show up and like I don't have it all figured out. And you could still have a business and not have it all figured out because you're real, you're relatable. And it's so funny. I don't think the whole like having your niche and like all of that, like I threw that out the window. I don't think I ever had that. Like I've always struggled with the idea of needing a niche, and I'm like I would make one up like really, and I'm just like it doesn't feel right. Like so it's I don't know, it feels like showing up as who we are as ourselves, that's the most important thing because then it's like a real authentic business,
Mm,
and we are just
yeah.
our we who we are is the brand.
It's actually the easiest thing when you overcome the fear of whether or not that's good enough.
Yeah. And like, it's like, oh, you too? Good. Like, not good, but it's like, I'm not
Mm-hmm.
alone in this. And we need
Mm,
that. It is so refreshing. And what you were sharing about just, with size and all that, like I know so many women who can benefit from being around other people who are honestly like quote unquote normal bodies. It's not the
mm-hmm.
magazine figures that we all see, and then we get
Yeah.
permission to be comfortable in our own skin. Um, and so I love how you show up. And I'm curious also, like because you were saying how you help people decondition. So what are the tools that you use for that?
Mm. Yeah, so I've got I guess the two that I really am kind of honing in on at the moment, because I just see so much power in them, is the belief ethics, the Joanna King's
Mhm.
the belief ethics model, which I did her certification in the summer, and theta healing, which is actually quite a almost like a woo-woo model, really, or a tool that we go up to the seventh plane and work with creator to help energetically pull the deepest rooted beliefs and replace them with new positive supportive beliefs. But I do it in such a, I guess, a pragmatic way, and that's why I love the belief ethics, because it's a real, like, it's such a simple place to start. And then I have the theta healing to kind of like um, just really support that, but on a deeper, I guess, more spiritual level, like a deeper energetic level, to help make those shifts like quicker and more lasting as well. And it's just I'm like overwhelmed with how quickly and how effective this is, and I've experienced it for myself, right, since I've started working in it. And yeah, it's awesome. So for me, it's just, I just get fascinated about listening to someone's story, and then we can really like hone in on what the roots of any limitations are, and yeah, dive straight in.
Cool. So is it like a meditation process, like for theta healing, or is it more of a talk?
Yeah, so we go up to a theta state, if you like, which is the brainwave state
Mm.
between you're still awake, but it's the most relaxed state, so that your subconscious is susceptible, I guess, or open, like it's more likely to reveal what's going on at the deeper level. So that's a meditation to get you into that state, but that can happen quite quickly. And then it is kind of, it's digging on, when was the first time you kind of experienced that, and how is it serving you, what virtues have you learned from kind of holding on to that belief, because as you know, we don't hold on to a belief unless it serves us in some way, but
Mm.
it's like, what positive virtues have you learned that you want to keep when we pull this belief. And the fascinating thing I find about theta is we don't just look on this core level in this lifetime, we look at genetic level. So we might hold
Mm.
beliefs that have been handed down through our genetics. We look at beliefs on a history level. So this might be past lives or just mass consciousness, if you think of it that way. And we also look at on soul level. So we have soul lessons that we're here to learn. And so is that belief on a soul lesson? Can we stamp it as complete now and take the virtues, keep the virtues, and actually move on? It's so cool when you start to like look at all the different levels that we hold these beliefs on as well, because it's not just that of it, sometimes we think, well, nothing happened to me in my childhood, there was no abuse or trauma to speak of, so I don't know why I would think this or behave this way. And actually it could just be handed down through your mother's genetic line, for example.
Mm.
um so it gets fascinating. I'm like, oh my goodness, like
I love it. It's totally up my alley. Amazing. I love it. So for people who want to learn more about working with you, what's the best way?
Probably Facebook. So I'm emmaclayton.exo on Facebook and Instagram. I'm also on LinkedIn. So yeah, you can just hit me up there.
Amazing. So I'll put that all in the show notes. Is there anything else you wanted to share before we end our chat?
No, I don't think so. Just thank you so much for having me, and I'm so glad I found a fellow manifestor sister in Figure Six.
Oh my God, so exciting. It like so much to dig into as manifestors. So I'm excited for it. So, all right. Well, thank you so much, Emma. It's a pleasure having you. And for those of you who are listening, if this resonated, please share and tag us on Instagram. We will share it back. And thank you so much, everybody. Stay tuned for next week's episode. Cheers. Join our free private Facebook group community, Sacred Emergence, to receive more connection, guidance, and support. And take part in our 5-day Inner Confidence Challenge to not only boost your confidence, but to help activate your inner leadership. Details in the show notes. Thank you for listening to the Sacred Emergence podcast. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and thank you in advance for sharing this with others who can benefit. Until next time.